The night was cold, darker than usual, and the sound of raindrops hitting the roof echoed like 1,000 tiny whispers. Ethan, a hard-working father of 3 beautiful triplets, had just returned earlier than expected from his business trip. His colleagues had insisted on a late dinner, but something in his heart urged him to go home sooner. He couldn't explain why, maybe it was fatherly instinct, or maybe destiny was pushing him back to his house. As he drove through the wet, slippery roads, his mind was full of his children's innocent laughter. They were only 4 years old, tiny little souls who had already brought him more joy than he ever imagined. After the passing of his first wife, those children had been his entire world. To care for them, to raise them, he had remarried a woman named Clara, a young, beautiful woman who at first seemed gentle and loving. She had promised to treat the children as her own, and Ethan, desperate for companionship, trusted her. But that night, as he pulled up to the driveway, something felt wrong. His home was dark. No lights. No warmth. Only the cold rain falling harder and harder. Ethan stepped out of the car, holding his coat tight around him, when suddenly, he froze. Right there, on the front porch, sitting helplessly on the wet floor, were his 3 children. Soaked to the bone, trembling, crying softly. Their tiny hands clung to one another, their lips shivering, and their eyes wide with fear. Ethan's heart nearly stopped. "Daddy," one of them whispered, his little voice broken by sobs. Ethan ran forward, his shoes splashing in the puddles, his chest tightening with rage and panic. He scooped them up in his arms, feeling the coldness of their wet clothes pressing against him. His babies, his angels, left outside, abandoned like unwanted things. Who did this? Ethan shouted, though there was no one to answer. His blood boiled as he realized the truth. Clara. His new wife. The woman he trusted. The children's words confirmed his fear. Between sobs, his daughter said, "Mommy, she pushed us out. She said we make too much noise. She locked the door." Ethan felt his heart shatter into 1,000 pieces. He wanted to scream, to break down the door, to demand answers, but he forced himself to stay strong for the kids. Wrapping them in his coat, he carried them inside. The house was warm, the fireplace still burning faintly, proof that Clara had been sitting comfortably inside while the little ones froze outside in the rain. Ethan's jaw tightened. He laid the children on the couch, wrapped them in blankets, and made warm milk. All the while, his mind was racing. How could a woman be so cruel? How could she betray not only him, but innocent children who had never harmed anyone? He heard footsteps upstairs, light, careless, as though nothing had happened. Clara appeared at the top of the staircase, wearing a silk robe, her hair perfect, her face calm. She looked down at Ethan, then at the children, and smirked. "You're home early," she said coldly, as if she had been caught off guard but didn't care. Ethan's fists clenched. The anger inside him was burning hotter than the fire in the hearth. "Why, Clara?" His voice trembled with fury. "Why would you throw them out? They're children. My children." Clara shrugged, her tone sharp and unapologetic. "They're not my children. They're a burden. Always crying, always needing attention. I married you, Ethan, not them." Those words cut deeper than any knife. Ethan stared at her in disbelief, his chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. His triplets looked at him with wide, tear-filled eyes, searching for comfort, for safety. And in that moment, Ethan made a silent vow, he would protect them at any cost. No matter what. But deep inside, he knew, this was only the beginning of a storm far greater than the rain outside. The silence after Clara's cruel words was deafening. The rain still tapped against the windows, but inside the house, Ethan's rage boiled like a storm ready to explode. His triplets clung to him, their tiny bodies trembling. He could feel their fear, fear of losing him, fear of being unwanted. He looked up at Clara, standing there with cold indifference in her eyes, and something inside him snapped. Enough, Ethan said, his voice low but powerful. These children are my blood. They are my life. If you cannot love them, if you cannot even treat them like human beings, then you do not belong in this house. Clara laughed bitterly. Oh, please. Don't act like some noble father now. You wanted a wife to keep you company, not a nanny for your little brats. Well, I'm done pretending. Either they go, or I do. The words hit Ethan like thunder, but instead of breaking him, they strengthened his resolve. He stood tall, his children still holding on to him, and pointed to the door. Then leave, Clara. Leave this house, and leave us in peace. Because no matter what, I will never, ever abandon my children. Clara's face twisted with fury. She hadn't expected Ethan to choose them over her. She stormed down the stairs, her heels clicking like sharp blades on the wooden floor. She grabbed her purse and shouted, "You'll regret this. No woman will ever accept you with those 3 burdens." And with a slam of the door, she was gone, swallowed by the storm outside. For a moment, the house was silent again. Only the crackling of the fire remained. Ethan sank onto the couch, pulling his children closer. Tears welled in his eyes, not of weakness, but of overwhelming love and determination. He kissed their foreheads one by one and whispered, "You are not burdens. You are my blessings. From this night on, I promise, I will be both father and mother to you." The triplets, still sniffling, slowly began to smile. They had seen the truth. Their father's love was stronger than any cruelty the world could throw at them. Days passed, and though life was not easy, Ethan dedicated himself completely to his children. He woke early to make their breakfast, walked them to school, told them bedtime stories at night. The pain of Clara's betrayal lingered, but it only made him more determined. With every laugh, every hug, every moment with his children, Ethan felt his strength grow. But fate had one last surprise. A few months later, while picking up his kids from the park, he met someone, an old family friend, a gentle woman named Hannah. She had always admired Ethan's devotion as a father. Slowly, carefully, she stepped back into his life, not as a replacement for their mother, but as a kind-hearted presence who genuinely cared for the children. At first, Ethan was cautious. He had trusted before and been betrayed. But over time, he saw the difference. Hannah didn't see the triplets as a burden, she saw them as joy. She played with them, taught them, loved them in ways Clara never had. One evening, as the children laughed and played around the living room, Ethan stood by the window, watching the sunset. His heart was full. The storm of that night was behind him now, and in its place was a new dawn. He whispered to himself, "Family isn't about who stays when it's easy. It's about who stands with you when the storm rages the hardest." And as he turned to see his children running into Hannah's arms, Ethan knew he had found the answer he had been searching for all along: love that was real. Love that stayed.